before we pulled into every port, we always had to go through a briefing about things that Americans should not do in certain countries. Singapore, you can't chew gum. If you spit on the side of the street, you will get caned, which they still do caning. We actually had to leave someone behind a couple years ago in Singapore in their justice system. They sent him back to us after he had been caned. And just different things that we're so used to a certain way of life that they find that disrespectful. And you're in their country, and so you want to be the most respectful towards them that you can possibly be. So that was very hard, and just watching yourself. Everywhere we went, you're an ambassador for the Navy, or the Marine Corps, or the Army, and they drill that into your head because the last thing they need is something on the news, another political problem, some sailor got drunk overseas and did this and that. So that was really difficult.
Coach?
I think for me it was the language barrier, especially when I was in Okinawa, Japan. You could pick up on a little bit because some words are very similar to what we would say, but yeah, trying not to cause an international incident is one of the priorities of being abroad. And I will say, like, the most interesting country I've been to has been Japan and Okinawa, because their way of life is so honorable that they take honor in everything that they do every day, from the time they wake up to the time they go to sleep. So that's big respect that I have for Japan and Okinawa.
Well, because I didn't get the rest of your question, but I think in Bosnia, that's where it was the most difficult as far as just the language barrier, and one mispronunciation that you had an incident that you had to take care of, and also in Korea, being along in the DMZ. What a lot of people don't understand is that we're just at a ceasefire. So, and all the time they say, well, today could be a day that we could reignite the Korean War. So we have to always be on guard.
I'd say the same thing as language barrier, or different foods, different drink. It's something strange that they didn't have a lot of ice, didn't have refrigerators overseas when I was there. And then they drinks hot, very good, that cold ice to put in drinks and stuff. But we've always had to be on our best behavior, but we were from the United States. Like you said, we were in our head that you be best behavior.
Okay. Jack?
Well, having to instruct the crew that this is their country, not yours, and to avoid the ugly American syndrome. They're proud of their country, they love their land, and we needed to respect that. So it was a challenge to make sure that they understood that 24/7, as long as they went ashore.
John, you were in South Pacific? A lot.
Amongst other places.
What kind of challenges, other than the obvious one of being at war and the risk of being shot at or sunk?
Well, with the Merchant Marines at that time, it was probably a little bit different than the Army and the Navy, because being on an ammunition ship, we were persona non gratis everywhere we went. They wouldn't let us tie up. We had 10,000 tons of ammunition to start with. And where were we?
10,000 tons of ammunition that nobody
Yeah.
wanted you there.
So we kind of got used to being by ourselves. And in the Philippines, it was the only place that we were close enough to get ashore, and we had to use a couple of ducks. So we used to go ashore every night while they were unloading. And we did get to meet quite a few people in a little town called Morris. They lived in huts that were made out of rice, bamboo. They ate rice, the best rice I've ever had in my whole life. I always tell my wife, I'd love to be able to have that rice. And
me ask each of you, we don't have to go in this back and forth order. What's the best memory? We just talked about the hardest thing to get used to. What's the best memory that you have from being in a foreign country as part of the military service? Cole, you've got a story, and I can see it on your face.
I want to say something really awesome, like, you know, the culture was awesome, but honestly, the best memory was just touching land. You're out to sea for, I mean, the longest we were out to sea because we hit a, in Chennai, India, our Liberty boat sunk, capsized with about 45 people on. So they cut off the Liberty lines and said, no, this is unsafe, you're not getting off the boat. So we were out to sea for like 80-something days, 90-something days. And by the time you just hit land, you just want to sleep in a normal bed that's big, and you want to take a shower in an area where you don't have to wear shower shoes. And you just want to relax by yourself. You are surrounded by people constantly. It's so nice to be by yourself and to get to travel and not having to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. That's really nice.
Okay. Anyone else? Best story, yeah, go ahead.
This was back in 2005 when the tsunamis hit the Thailand. We went over there from Okinawa with the 3rd MEF and to provide humanitarian operations with the Navy. And there was a little girl who lost both her parents. She was 8 years old. And since she didn't have a sponsor to get her food for her, she was pretty much starving. So I talked to our interpreter and I told him to tell her every day, come see me and I'll give you my MREs to eat. And when we were leaving country, a little girl came up to me and she spoke in Thai, and our interpreter said she called you her guardian angel. So that's my best memory.
Do you have a picture?
I do not.
Because oddly enough, there's a picture of the little Vietnamese boy from Wayne did the same thing. That's the best memory. Congratulations, young fellow. Other good stories, good memories.
People think that when you're in Korea, you know, that you're going to get somewhere between Chinese food and Japanese food. They have totally unique. It's called kimchi. It is bloody awful.
He said with respect.
It is beyond pop. And I guess the best memory I have is being able to take that and say, oh, boy, this is good. But then when dinner's over, you know, you get back aboard ship, and oh my God. It lasts for a few days. Yeah, it was pleasant.
I was in a national cemetery in Cambridge, England, back in May. And it's the only American national cemetery on British soil. And it happened to be in the afternoon, and I walked through, and I did find Glenn Miller's name.
Did you?
And read a lot of the other names, and I stand there and I just read the names because these are people. And I walked among the headstones, which have different shapes on the top, but I watched, and it was toward the end of the afternoon, and the caretaker was there, and he started to take down the flag. And by the time I got there, he had it down, and it was slung over his shoulder, because he was there alone. And I walked up to him, and I said, "Can I help you fold that?" "Well, that would be lovely." And we did. We folded it in the triangle, which represents George Washington's hat. And we got it, and as we got to the end, we kind of joked that, you know, I bet your Boy Scout would do a better job. But we got it done with a certain amount of solemnity, and I gave it to him, and he went off on his way. When we were finished, I was walking out toward the entrance to get back on the bus, and a lady stepped out of the shadows, and I hadn't seen her, and an elderly lady, and we can say that. And she thanked me, and I said, "For what?" And she pointed to where her husband is buried. And she said, "For showing the respect for the flag." And I just thanked her for the service that she and her husband had provided. So, I want to thank each of you for opening up. It's not easy sometimes. But the other thing that I will tell you, tell your stories. Tell your stories. Make sure people know